Welcome back to Roaming with Restless Women. Today I have Kym Insana. Kym is a multi-million-dollar business owner, digital marketing expert, and founder of Always On Digital, a woman-owned agency helping brands like the U.S. Air Force, Infamil, and Johnston and Murphy scale through digital impactful campaigns. With over 20 years of experience, Kym left her demanding New York City advertising career to build a company that offers flexibility and balance, values she champions as a wife and a mother of four. By the way, four boys. So that gives you some idea of how busy the woman is. Always On Digital thrives by empowering talented working parents to blend career success with family life. A sought after speaker, Kym has shared her journey and expertise on national stages, including the Big in San Francisco and iMedia Brand Summit. Welcome, Kym. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you, Julie. I'm excited to be here.
And you are calling from New York City, or New York, I should say. I don't always want to say city, but it's New York.
I know people get very protective of New York, and I am born and raised from New York. I was born in Queens. I went to high school in the city, so I feel like I have a right to the city. I
There
spent
you
most of
go.
my life there. But once I did have kids and we need a little more space, I did move out to Long Island. So
There you go.
those are where my roots are.
My husband actually he was born in Brooklyn and then raised in New Jersey, but he had a little stint out on Long Island as well. So very familiar
Yeah.
with the area. Well,
Yeah.
welcome. Thank you for coming onto the show today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
The first question that I have for you is your passion is really all around making balance in life as well as, for your family as well as for your profession. So go back with me
Mhm.
for a while and tell me, how did you come across this idea? Tell me, when did this become your passion?
So I would say when I was first starting out in like working, I had gone to high school in the city and I had an after school job at a radio rep firm, and so I was just opening mail and doing like little tasks here and there. But I noticed there was a lot of working mothers that did job shares, and they were high performing radio sellers, and they would come in 3 days a week each. This prior to cell phones and laptops,
Uh-huh.
and they always, exceeded their goal. They got it done. It always looked perfect. They watched each other's kids on different days off. But there was like never a problem. They had this like ideal situation where women could work, but also, be there at home for their kids in a balanced way. Maybe not for everything, but for a good amount of stuff. And so I always had that like in the back of my mind throughout my career. And as I moved into the online industry and started to have kids, I, would ask these questions. Oh, well, what if, I shared a job with so and so and maybe I make a little less money, but we'll probably do better than everyone else and have higher commission because we're both going to be working so hard to make this work that we'll probably be great at it. And we
Yeah.
got no's all the time. It was always a no. Um, and I accepted it and I continued to grow, in my career and tried to move up the ranks, but it became harder and harder, one, as I had more kids, and two, as I got more senior. And in some companies, they did give me, oh, you can work from home 2 days a week. And not that I had my kids home with me, but it just allowed me to do dinner with them or pick up or their homework, just little stuff. And I just found the struggle where I would leave the office, go home, and I would, barely get an hour with my kids. And then I would find myself at night, instead of getting my relaxing time or preparing for the next day, I had to go finish whatever the thing is for work, whether it be
Right.
a PowerPoint for a sales presentation, a quarterly business review. All of these things were expected to be done during my time. And
Yeah.
I started to get a little resentful of that because even traveling for business, they would say, well, you have to travel on your own time. So my work time is my work time. My personal time is my work time. When is my time? And so,
Yeah.
and also like you look at your salary and you think, oh, you may make X per hour. But when you add in all those extra hours, you're probably making less than minimum wage sometimes, right? It's like your whole life is dedicated to work and that's who you become. Why did I have kids anyway? And then there was the commute that was really long and other factors.
Yeah.
So I started to see also other women leave the workforce that were excellent at their jobs. They were like the best ones there, but they had kids and then it was goodbye because they couldn't have this balance that worked for them. And it was just a shame. I felt like that's such a disservice where, women go to college and they want a career and they want a family, but, you can't have your cake and eat it too. And I'm not saying it has to be perfect and we're never balanced. It's a
Yeah.
seesaw. Sometimes it's okay and you're up in the air and sometimes you're on the bottom. But why not have that? And so I did approach our CEO and I said, you help people start companies. Can I take people that don't, fit the mold here? Help me get started, which I realized it's a lot easier than I thought it was. And I didn't really need anybody's help. I could have just incorporated or, done all that work of my own with a little Google,
Mm.
but c'est la vie. And they did help me and we got started and they took a
Yeah.
small portion of the company in return, of course. And I was able to go and hire women that had left the workforce that were just so great at what they did, but provide them with an opportunity to do it on their own time and be there for their families.
Yes. So what kinds of positions did you discover early on that really benefited from this model?
So at pretty much everything in the advertising space that we do can fit this model. So whether or not you're selling advertising, if you're executing the advertising and working out the back end, if you're doing creative development, account management, there's always a role. I feel even our finance person, HR, every single role within our organization has the ability to have this flexible model. And that's because one, we try to do things on a team effort. So there's, if you're an account manager, you may have a partner similar to those initial women that I had mentioned.
Yeah,
And they work as a team. So things always get done, but they are living their life too.
that's really interesting. And as a matter of fact, when you were talking earlier about the two ladies that you mentioned job sharing, one thing that my mom and my aunt did that was an early precursor of this was they shared a job at a daycare. And
Wow.
so 3 days a week would be my aunt, two
Yeah.
days a week would be my mom. And on the days when they were off, they had all five of us kids or all
Yeah.
four of us kids. So they had learned to do that or had figured out how to do that early on. And it
Yeah.
didn't become a thing really until later, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And even when it was a thing, it was a one-off kind of a
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
So did you find that COVID really kind of accelerated this whole process of work-life balance?
I would say it did. So we started in 2016. So we had
Hmm.
4 years under our belt before the rest of the world really came to this, working from home life. And I will say it did set us up for success because we already
Yeah.
had the infrastructure in place. So when COVID happened, and there's a lot of kids in our organization. Another mother also has four boys. Like, then there's somebody that has two.
Mm,
So there's lots of kids, and we all had kids home. And, so we were, we struggle. Everybody struggled who was teaching math to children, I
yes.
think, right? No one was like, yes, I'm teaching Common Core at home while trying to keep a job.
Yeah.
But, we were struggling for sure. But we had the setup in place where our clients already understood how we worked. But then
Mhm.
now they were experiencing that and doing the same thing where they were working from home and trying to juggle. And I think it did accelerate it. And I find it interesting. A couple of years ago, some of the folks in our space had said, "Oh, can we have an office?" Because now our kids are all in school. They're in kindergarten. We're free more during the day, and we don't want to be in the house working. We want to be social and be together and collaborate. And so we open
Uh-oh.
to a hybrid model where we have people in an office, here and there, because we wanted that interaction. So it's always funny when people approach me and say, well, you're, this remote company, and what's your opinions on this return to office now? And I'm like, I think you should do it to some extent. I actually see the value in having a hybrid model because I learned so much from others around me. And that's also how we grow. When we're in our own world, we may not necessarily grow. So I think going back to that balance, it shouldn't be all or one. Finding something that works for your organization. And every organization is different, and maybe full remote is perfect. But for us, now we're hybrid, so we're not even fully remote anymore. Like that was 10 years ago at this point. And
Yeah.
so we're in this situation.
Well, let me ask you this. When you did decide to quote unquote go hybrid, obviously you said it came from actually from your employees
Hmm.
that they had expressed a desire to do that. So my assumption is then you didn't have too much of a problem of asking people to come back in. They wanted to come back in. Did you have anybody that just basically said, I really don't want to do that?
So we also made the office extremely convenient to certain people that had the most hours essentially. So like the more full-time people, like the office is convenient.
Yeah.
There are people that live in New Jersey that it's not convenient for, and we have
Mm-hmm.
zero expectation for them to come in. It's
Okay.
kind of like it's a nice to have environment, but they may only work, 8 to 12. So for them, it's a tougher situation to expect, and their kids are not all in school full time. So those situations, we have zero expectation, and we spent a lot of time on Zoom. But what was interesting is we had a monthly meeting for our account management team last week, and they were like, "Oh, can we do like an offsite, like a twice a year offsite where we spend the day together?" Like they're asking for this, and we always try to let them ask versus pushing it on someone
Oh,
because we're
yeah.
built this way. Larger organizations say, "Hey, guess what? The sales offsite is during the Super Bowl," which I've had in years past. It's in Vegas during the Super Bowl, and you're expected to be there, which is on a weekend, right? And so,
Yeah.
guess what? Like that's your personal time, and that's what we're doing. And I never wanted to create that environment where people felt like, oh, I'm giving up time with my family or whatever. So we let it be more of, oh, you're looking for this. Let's find some dates that work for everybody. It's more of a conversation than this is the day and you're expected to be there. Because I don't feel like that benefits anyone. It just creates resistance. But we're also not a 300-person company where you kind of do need to just say, okay, this is a date. We can't work with everyone's.
Yeah.
So it's kind of creating a hybrid, but we try to be respectful of all of that.
One of the clients that excuse me, that I work with, was going through the whole, how do we regulate this hybrid thing? Because they were seeing that some of the interpersonal interactions were not happening. People were not getting recognized and promoted like they should. Innovation was suffering to some degree because of the all remote. So one of the things that and this is in a very high, long commute kind of a city.
Mhm.
So it would take an hour or 2 hours to get to the
Yeah.
office and go back. So, typically you wouldn't require that 5 days a week. So they tried to do it 3 days a week. And that wasn't working either. And what they found was they had to create a reason
Hmm.
for people to be in the office that was besides just sitting at their desk working in their cubes.
Yeah.
Um, and so what they started to do was designate 1 week a month that everyone had to come in, and they put in employee development workshops, they put
Mhm.
in meet and greets, they put in cocktail hours, they put in all this other stuff to make sure that people were, when they were there, they were actually interacting.
Yeah.
um, and I found that very fascinating that they had to kind of make those events um, possible for
Yeah.
people. It wasn't an organic, kind of a movement. It's the old coffee, let's meet in the coffee room. That wasn't happening.
Yeah, and
How have you found it that you have to do events or you have to plan some meetings and stuff?
I think a lot of our team wants to get together just
Yeah,
naturally. We spend time before we do a weekly call, and beginning of the call, we kind of talk about personal stuff. Um,
yeah.
what's going on in people's lives. And, there's a lot of sick days. There's a lot of kids that are sick. And so we even know what's going on with kids. And somebody may say, oh, my kid has croup. And it's like, oh, have you tried this? Or like, there's a lot of information sharing and pictures sometimes. So
Oh,
we spend time talking to each other where you want to see the person because you're like, oh, I miss that person. Or you get some time to have some idea of, oh, wow, we should do this and provide that for them. So I don't think we have to really create too much of it. I think if we offered a bunch of things, people would jump on it. But we're always cognizant of people's time and not making it too crazy. But they they want that from what I see. But I think some of it is because they had that experience of being together and working together prior
mhm.
to us starting this and COVID and all of that.
Yeah,
Some of the challenges I see are people that never experienced that office environment because they're coming into the workforce after COVID. And so
right.
they may be more introverts and they don't see the value or the benefit of being together because they never really experienced that, where you could just walk to someone's cube and say, hey, I have a question. Can we work through this? And then you work through it and you feel great about yourself. Or, you meet the president in the kitchen and
Yeah.
you did a great job this week. And you're like, oh, they know my name, where you wouldn't have that over Slack or Zoom otherwise. And so some
Hmm.
of them have never seen the benefit of that. And I think that's the challenge why you have to create these events and education around the importance of being together and collaboration. But it's it's also hard when companies just mandate it without conversation. And that's where you
Yeah.
get pushback sometimes.
Yeah, I know that I have seen the pushback in a couple of the clients that I've worked with.
Yeah.
And the pushback is all about when you make somebody as opposed to give them the opportunity.
Hmm.
There's two different things.
Yeah.
And a lot of a lot of different acknowledging that there are a lot of different needs in an employee population. There may be a group of people, and this is pretty typical of developers, coders and IT professionals. They don't necessarily need to be surrounded by a whole bunch of people to
Yeah.
feel fulfilled. And they have their one or two people that they'll call and say, hey, have you seen this code?
Hmm.
I can do this now. Have you tried it? Have you seen the solution for this? Whatever. They don't have a need for that personal touch.
Yeah.
Some people just don't. And I think it should be okay both ways,
Yeah.
but either way and I think sometimes we put people in a box of um they're not promotable or they don't have skills because they're not out, front and center all the time, uh,
No.
being part of the leading the crowd or whatever.
I agreed. Yeah, for sure. Because there's even when you're managing people, you have to manage to the person versus the
Yes.
job. And if you, it's just about communication. I feel like you just talk to someone and say, this is the outcome we need. And, we're looking for your help. Talk to me. And so I always manage sales teams and we would
Yeah.
throw out like, oh, a revenue kind of carrot of whatever it is. And not everybody responded to it. Like people
Yeah.
like money, they do, but not everybody is driven by money. And so what I found was one of the guys, I asked him, what is it that you want? What would you want? And he said, I want to leave at
Right.
4:30, 2 days a week. Okay. So if you bring in another $1 million, you can leave at 4:30, 2 days a week. He got that $1 million right away
Oh
because
yeah.
he was so driven by the opportunity because his commute was 2 hours. Can I leave at 4:30? That's what I want. That's it. And it's, maybe for these people that are commuting an hour or 2 hours, because I was in that boat.
Oh yeah.
Does the workday need to be 8:30 to 6 or 8:30 to 5 or 9 to 5?
Right.
Does it really need to be that time? Or can we say to people, listen, we're not saying come in for an hour. We know it's a long commute. We hope that you're accessible maybe during your commute if you're sitting on a train, if we have a question. But at the end of the day, we need this job done. Can you do this job within that time? And, we'll kind of work with you on that. Like, don't be sitting there with your watch or a time clock, or don't do that.
Yeah,
So
I think we're
make it work,
beyond,
you
a
know?
lot of times we're beyond that unless you are an actual hourly employee. I never understood why a salaried employee needed to be on a clock. Sure, if they are customer facing or customer service, they need to be there at specific times for the customer. But if you have a job, here's what needs to get done. How long is it going to take you to do it? Just get it done.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, I don't understand
not
why it
hard.
has to be between 8 and 6. But
Yeah.
that's a different mindset than what most of us grew up with, at least Gen X and Boomers. So
Mhm.
uh, the newer generations are kicking our butt as far as that goes.
They
Love
are
it.
for sure.
I love it. So tell me about your company and what you guys do.
So we provide advertising solutions for brands as well as advertising agencies. So we can partner with a brand directly, help them with everything from strategy to execution of media campaigns. And we can also work with agencies in the same manner. So maybe they have the media plan, but they need somebody to buy and execute it. And that's across anything traditional. So outdoor billboards, newspaper, more traditional advertising, as well as digital or like new media, connected TV, like banner ads, video, mobile, and then all the social channels and search advertising.
Wow. And so how have you found over the last, let's say, 7, 8 years, what have been the biggest impacts from an advertising perspective to companies who really want to make a big impression?
So Facebook, which is under the Meta umbrella, has always been a strong performer. I mean, searches in its own world, that's people looking for,
Yeah.
actively looking. So yes, that's always going to be your home run. But for you trying to get new customers that may not be thinking about you, display advertising or video advertising, and then social media is always, the the golden opportunity. So we usually start with like a Facebook for a lot of advertisers, especially smaller ones, because they can do so well from a targeting standpoint, a cost efficiency standpoint. You could see the result. The other stuff sometimes is not as accountable, similar to billboards, where you don't
Yeah.
know for sure exactly how many people came to your site or made a purchase from it, but you get an estimate. It's similar with, video campaigns are a little bit more along those lines, or connected TV, where there's less drive to the bottom line. It's more of a branding and awareness and that type of thing. Facebook is very action oriented. So, even though it's not new, it has stayed strong for so many years. And I would say that has been the thing that has really stayed true and
Yeah.
stayed at the top of mind for a lot of people.
I'm surprised that Instagram hasn't overtaken it.
They're one and the same, honestly. And
Yeah.
so when you
Oh,
advertise
okay.
on one, you kind of automatically can go on to the other
Yeah.
with a click of
Hmm.
a button. But Facebook proper still does have a different type of conversion. And part of it is the text and the way you can click through and stuff like that. But we do both Instagram, you can go in the stories, you can go in the feed, you can do a lot of different things. Um, but I think, just visually sometimes Facebook, and maybe it's the age, maybe it's because I fall in that age, I tend to click more on a Facebook ad. I get sold all the time, right? Click more on
Oh.
a ad than I would an Instagram sometimes. It's different for different target audiences, but it has been a solid performer overall.
And so how have you guys incorporated the use of AI into your business? Are you still worrying, like wondering how we're going to do all of this? Like a lot of us are.
Yeah. So a lot of the
Excuse me.
platforms have AI tools in them now. They are becoming heavier with AI, which scares me a little bit because it's like the robots taking over the world and you're putting your trust in it, and then sometimes they make mistakes. So Facebook has an AI creative that happens. It's actually it's an auto on. So you have to turn it off, where they can recreate your creative for you based on what their AI feels will perform best. In our world, there's brands that need to approve the creative. So when you have something like that, they're now not approving these images or the way it comes across, and
Mm.
AI is not perfect. So there are, tools that are there, but you have to be cautious with them. I mean, algorithms are, yeah, obviously, driven, and they start to get better and better. But Google's starting to do AI keywords, and like that's where you gotta really pay attention to some stuff. But sometimes we're developing creative and we need help with taglines, and we're like, what's something else catchier? And you will use AI for that just to get some other ideas. And some other, maybe taking a case study and can you help improve this or think of something else, give me some other ideas. Just almost like a sounding board we tend to start to use AI
Yeah.
for. But it's there. But our specialty is the human touch because technology always does need somebody watching it. And we find that even with the use of AI, you really got to be paying attention to what's going on.
Well, I have a question for you about that because um, I find that the best communication is obviously something that has feeling to it. It's
Hmm.
not just the words, it's not just hitting your mind,
Yeah.
but the best always has an emotional element.
Hmm.
And I wonder, I don't think AI is anywhere close to that yet. It can make
It
the words,
yeah.
but you can tell there's no emotion there,
No,
at
and
least when I read it.
yeah, no, it feels like that. And I almost feel, do you remember the books Amelia Bedelia, where
Yeah,
he would
yeah,
take it one way, and I was like, I still feel like there's that to it, like a
yeah,
sponge cake, a sponge cake, you're thinking, is it like put real sponges in it, or like there's this, I don't know, this little thing there that's still bugging me about it, where I feel like it doesn't always get it.
right.
And there are some platforms that are so advanced and you could do so much more and really get it going. But from a baseline, it isn't really there emotionally. And I don't know if you could ever really get it emotionally because all of our emotions are different as different people. Like, whose
Mhm.
emotions do you choose to make the dictator of how the AI works? Because we all have different emotions and thoughts and feelings when we write stuff. So it can't be a widespread thing.
Yeah, I think that's what makes us creative is the inside of us, not anything we can duplicate
Yeah.
readily anyway. But I'm not trying to be an old fart. I just think there are limitations, as you
Yeah.
said. So we're coming to close to the end of our time. I wanted to ask you if you had any other words of wisdom to share for women who are seeking that balance between their life and their profession. Before I ask you my final three questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say try to look at it in the small steps versus all at once. And so
Mm,
if you are looking for more balance, kind of take the little things. It's very hard to get from point A to point B sometimes and have this complete like, oh, this is perfect. Look for the perfect moments, not necessarily the whole thing. And an example of that is I look at driving my kids, like picking them up from school or something like that as those perfect moments because it's not a chore to me that I get to go pick them up from practice. If I was working in the city and everything else, I wouldn't have that opportunity. And that's when they tell me all their stuff. They tell me the gossip. They tell me
oh
what's going on,
yeah.
how they feel or what they're upset about. And so I look at those car rides as like my perfect moment and that I'm grateful to have that. That's not something that you can't get having a corporate job. Maybe you can, maybe you one day a week could get that. And so take those little things and those little moments and do small steps instead of saying like it's the end all be all if I don't have all of the things that I'm looking at. I think that's where the pure balance comes in.
Oh, that is excellent, excellent advice. I would agree 100% that that is when they tell you stuff
They tell you everything.
is in the car, if you're curious.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I have three questions that I end every episode with, and they're fairly easy. So if you could close your eyes for the first one.
Mhm.
In your mind's eye, describe what you see when I say wise woman.
I actually think of my grandma when I hear the word wise woman. She was actually a single mother, and she worked so hard, but was also there for her family. And I feel like she made everything look easy. And she was just, so smart. Like to be able to do that years ago as a single mother and raise a child. And she had a high powered career. She was in the movie industry. So she was head of like,
Wow,
so she had a very serious job. So I felt like everything she taught us and told us was just like the gospel because she kind of did it all.
she
So
proved it.
it's more of a personal one for me, but that's who a wise woman is to me.
I love that. It's somebody that walks the talk and makes it look easy. I
Yes,
love it.
yes, yes. And her house was always clean and neat. Like there was never any like things around. Like how? How did she do that?
Yeah. One kid, not four,
Yes,
right?
that's why.
Okay, where do you like to roam, Kim?
Uh, Pretty much anywhere outside. I love being outside. I even if it's at I didn't think I was going to be this baseball mom on these baseball fields, but I enjoy being outside. I feel like there's such a peace that comes from that when you're struggling or just want like nature is just the answer to a lot of that.
I agree with you 100%. I love to go outside and walk my dog.
Yeah.
It's my favorite times of the day is when I can get out and walk him around just to
Mm.
be away from the desk or away from
Yes.
whatever. Yeah, for a moment. The final question is, what makes you restless, but in a good way?
My kids' happiness, probably.
Mm,
Um, I always want them to be happy. They all know, and I say this all the time, I've got to keep you alive till 25. I have to make sure that I can get you there and like make good decisions and stay out of trouble or whatever it is. And I feel like for some reason 25 seems like that magic number where you start to get it and you become more responsible
mm,
and but it worries me, but it's also joy to see them grow. Like I don't want them to grow too fast by any means. Like please don't leave the nest right away. But I
right.
I love seeing them thrive where I can have a relationship with them as they're older that you can appreciate. And so an example is like I love skiing. And the kids when they're little, you're helping them and you're physically doing, but like to be able to go on a chairlift with three of them will come with me, three of them, and we sit on the chairlift together. And this is from 18, 13, and 8. So like three very different ages and we're all together and then we're going to ski down together and I don't have to necessarily watch them as much. I can enjoy them.
Yeah.
That's that moment of, so that whole growth period is definitely makes me restless. But
Oh,
there's a lot of joy in it.
well, I'm blessed to have two children who are grown. They are 31 and 27. So I know what you're talking about, and it does come around. Now I talk to my daughter like she's my friend, not,
Yes.
not my daughter, although, she does get the little lecture occasionally because I have
Yeah.
a
That can
grandson.
never go away. And I'm
That
sure
can
she
never
still
go
needs
away.
the advice too. Because that's
Well, a bit,
boring.
sometimes, yeah, sometimes. But yeah, it's nice to have that adult relationship,
Yeah.
It's really cool. Thank you so much, Kim, for being here. And I really appreciate the wisdom you've shared with the group. And guys, if you want to get a hold of Kim, I'll put all of her information in about her company as well as her LinkedIn profile. I'll put that in the show notes. And we'll see you later.
Thank you so much, Julie.
Julie Noonan here. Thank you so much for listening to Roaming with Restless Women. If you're a successful senior woman leader who would like to be on this program, please visit podcast.intuitivewisdomcoach.com If you enjoyed this interview, please share this episode on social media and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Your thumbs ups and reviews go a long way.